a world engulfed the Second World War. World War II was a global conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. It raged from 1939 to 1945, engulfing nations across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. More than 60 million people perished, making it the deadliest conflict in human history. The war left an indelible mark on the world, reshaping political boundaries, sparking technological advancements, and leaving behind a legacy of both triumph and tragedy. The sheer scale of the war was staggering. Millions of soldiers were mobilized from all corners of the globe. Civilians, too, were caught in the crossfire, enduring bombing raids, occupation, and genocide. The war saw the rise of totalitarian regimes, the horrors of the Holocaust, and the dawn of the atomic age. World War II was a clash of ideologies, a battle between democracy and fascism, freedom and oppression. It tested the resilience of the human spirit and forever altered the course of human history. The echoes of this monumental conflict continue to resonate today, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the importance of understanding the past to shape a better future. From the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of the Pacific, World War II was a testament to the human capacity for both destruction and courage. It was a conflict that forever changed the world and continues to shape our understanding of the 20th century. Seeds of conflict, the path to war. The roots of World War II can be traced back to the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war but sowed the seeds for future conflict. Germany, blamed for the war, was forced to accept harsh penalties, including territorial losses, disarmament, and crippling reparations. This fueled resentment and instability in Germany, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies to take root. The global economic depression of the 1930s further exacerbated tensions. Widespread unemployment and poverty created a sense of desperation and disillusionment, making radical solutions more appealing. It was in this climate of economic and social upheaval that fascist movements, led by charismatic figures like Adolf Hitler in Germany and Benito Mussolini in Italy, gained traction. Hitler's rise to power in 1933 marked a turning point on the road to war. Driven by a toxic mix of nationalism, militarism, and racial hatred, Hitler sought to overturn the Treaty of Versailles and establish German dominance in Europe. He rebuilt Germany's military, defying the treaty's restrictions, and embarked on a series of aggressive foreign policy moves. Hitler's early actions, such as the remilitarization of the Rhineland in 1936 and the annexation of Austria in 1938, were met with appeasement from Britain and France. Eager to avoid another devastating war, these nations hoped that by conceding to Hitler's demands, they could satisfy his ambitions and preserve peace. However, Hitler's appetite for conquest proved insatiable, and his actions only emboldened him further. The world watched with growing apprehension as Europe teetered on the brink of war. The storm breaks from Poland to Paris. The uneasy peace that had gripped Europe since the end of World War I was shattered on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. This act of aggression, a blatant violation of international law, triggered a chain reaction that plunged the world into war. Britain and France, honoring their commitments to Poland, declared war on Germany 2 days later. The German invasion of Poland marked the beginning of World War II in Europe. German forces, employing their Blitzkrieg tactics of rapid movement, overwhelming firepower, and coordinated air support, quickly overran the Polish defenses. Despite fierce resistance from the Polish army, Warsaw fell to the Germans on September 27, 1939, effectively ending the campaign. While the war raged in Poland, a period of relative calm settled over Western Europe known as the Phony War. However, this lull proved short-lived. In April 1940, Germany launched a surprise attack on Denmark and Norway, swiftly occupying both countries. The focus then shifted to Western Europe, where German forces unleashed their Blitzkrieg tactics against Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. The fall of France in June 1940 sent shockwaves through the Allied nations. Paris, once considered impregnable, fell to the Germans after a brief but intense campaign. The speed and ferocity of the German advance stunned the world, demonstrating the devastating effectiveness of the Blitzkrieg. With France occupied, Britain stood alone against the Nazi war machine. With much of Europe under Axis control, the war expanded to new fronts. In June 1941, Hitler, breaking a non-aggression pact, launched a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. Operation Barbarossa, as it was known, was the largest military operation in history, involving millions of troops and stretching across a vast front. The German army, initially confident of a swift victory, made significant gains in the early months of the campaign. But the Red Army's fierce resistance in the harsh Russian winter slowed the German advance. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, tensions between Japan and the United States had been escalating for years. Japan, seeking to expand its empire in Asia, viewed the US Pacific Fleet as a major obstacle to its ambitions. On December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the US naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The attack, which killed over 2,400 Americans and sank or damaged numerous ships, including battleships, stunned the American public and galvanized support for war. The following day, December 8, 1941, the United States declared war on Japan, officially entering World War II. Germany and Italy, honoring their alliance with Japan, declared war on the United States on December 11, 1941. With the entry of the United States, the war became truly global, with the world's most powerful nations locked in a life-or-death struggle. The year 1942 marked a turning point in the war. The Axis powers, having enjoyed a string of early victories, began to face mounting setbacks. In the Pacific, the US Navy won a decisive victory over the Japanese fleet at the Battle of Midway in June 1942. This pivotal battle, often considered the turning point in the Pacific War, crippled Japan's naval aviation and checked its advance across the Pacific. In North Africa, British forces led by General Bernard Montgomery defeated the German Afrika Korps, commanded by General Erwin Rommel, at the Second Battle of El Alamein in late 1942. This victory marked the beginning of the end for Axis forces in North Africa and paved the way for the Allied invasion of Italy in 1943. On the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad, which raged from August 1942 to February 1943, proved to be a decisive turning point in the war against Nazi Germany. The battle, fought in the ruins of the strategically important city of Stalingrad, was one of the bloodiest in history, with an estimated 2 million casualties. The German defeat at Stalingrad marked the limit of the German advance in the east and put the Axis powers on the defensive. As the tide of war turned in favor of the Allies, the momentum shifted decisively. Allied victories in North Africa, Italy, and the Eastern Front, coupled with growing industrial might, put increasing pressure on the Axis powers. The year 1944 witnessed a series of decisive Allied offensives that ultimately led to the defeat of the Axis powers. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces under the overall command of US General Dwight D. Eisenhower launched Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious invasion in history, landing on the beaches of Normandy, France. D-Day, as it became known, marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. After fierce fighting, Allied forces broke out of the Normandy beachhead and began pushing eastward into France, liberating Paris in August 1944. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Red Army launched a series of massive offensives, liberating Belarus, Ukraine, and the Baltic states from German occupation. As Allied forces closed in on Germany from both east and west, the Nazi regime began to crumble. In the Pacific, US forces, employing a strategy of island hopping, gradually advanced toward the Japanese home islands. Major battles were fought at Iwo Jima and Okinawa, both of which resulted in costly American victories but demonstrated the tenacity of Japanese resistance. With the capture of Okinawa in June 1945, the stage was set for the final assault on Japan. In April 1945, Soviet forces captured Berlin, the capital of Nazi Germany. Hitler, facing defeat and unwilling to be captured, committed suicide in his bunker on April 30, 1945. On May 7, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allies, marking the end of the war in Europe.